The massive ship hung in the darkness above Earth like a black mountain made of metal and light. It was bigger than any city, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Strange patterns glowed along its sides, and smaller ships moved around. It like insects around a lamp. Ambassador Carrick stood on the bridge of the Vorthek warship, looking down at the blue and green planet below. His forearms were crossed behind his back, and his large black eyes reflected the light from the screens around him. The other aliens on the bridge moved quietly, checking their instruments and waiting for orders. "Such a small world," Carrick said to his aide, a thin creature with gray skin and too many fingers. "Hard to believe such dangerous animals came from there." The aide nodded and held up a datapad. "The humans have been watching us since we arrived 3 days ago. Their primitive satellites are pointed at our ship. They know we are here." Carrick made a sound that might have been laughter. "Of course they know. We want them to know. Fear makes animals more willing to listen." On the planet below, emergency meetings were happening in every major city. The United Earth government had called together every leader, every scientist, every military officer they could find. The alien ship had appeared without warning, just sitting there in space above them like a sword hanging over their heads. President Elena Vasquez sat at the head of a long table in the emergency bunker beneath Geneva. Around her, faces from every nation appeared on screens. Some looked afraid. Some looked angry. All of them looked to her for answers she did not have. "What do we know about them?" she asked General Morrison, the head of Earth's combined military forces. The old soldier looked tired. "Not much, Madam President. The ship is massive. Our instruments can barely get readings on it. Whatever it's made of, it's not like anything." "We understand, and there are more ships coming." Dr. Sarah Chun, Earth's top physicist, leaned forward. "Our deep space monitors picked up at least 12 different energy signatures approaching the outer solar system. This isn't just one species. This is a group of them." President Vasquez felt cold. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was not what they had hoped for. "Have they tried to communicate?" she asked. "Yes, Madam President," came the voice of Communications Director Williams through the speakers. "They sent a message 20 minutes ago. It was in perfect English, Spanish, Chinese, and Arabic all at the same time." The president felt her stomach drop. If these aliens could speak their languages perfectly, they had been watching Earth for a long time. Learning. Planning. "What did they say?" Williams was quiet for a moment. "They want to meet, tomorrow, face to face. They're sending a shuttle to the landing pad at the United Nations building in New York." Back on the alien ship, Carrick was preparing for his mission. He had done this 47 times before with 47 different species. Some had tried to fight. Some had tried to run. Some had tried to hide. In the end, they all made the same choice. They all chose to live as slaves rather than die. As free beings, the humans will be no different, Carrick told himself as he put on his formal robes. The dark blue fabric was covered with symbols that showed his rank and authority to speak for the Hegemony Council. 12 species had joined together to bring order to the galaxy. 12 species had agreed that some forms of life were too dangerous to be allowed to spread among the stars. Humanity was one of those forms of life. The aide appeared at his door. "Ambassador, the shuttle is ready. The human leaders will meet you at the place they call the United Nations." Carrick nodded. "Have you prepared the demonstration?" "Yes, Ambassador. If they refuse our generous offer, we will show them what happened to the Krell homeworld." The next day, the alien shuttle landed in New York like a falling star. It was smooth and silver, shaped like a teardrop, and it made no sound as it touched down. People lined the streets for miles, held back by soldiers and police. Some held signs welcoming the aliens, others demanded they leave. Most just watched in silence. Not knowing what to think, President Vasquez stood with her security team and advisors in the United Nations Assembly Hall. She had chosen to meet the aliens here because it represented all of humanity, not just one nation. If these creatures wanted to talk to Earth, they would talk to all of Earth. The doors opened and Ambassador Carrick walked in. He was tall. Maybe 8 feet, with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone? His large black eyes seemed to take in everything at once. Behind him came 2 other aliens of different species. One looked like a giant insect with crystal wings. The other was covered in fur and had too many teeth. I am Ambassador Carix of the Vorthek Empire, speaking for the Hegemony Council, the tall alien said. His voice was deep and came from speakers built into his clothes, not from his mouth. I come to speak with the leaders of the species you call human. President Vasquez stepped forward. I am Elena Vasquez, President of the United Earth Government. We speak for all humanity. Welcome to Earth. Carix made a gesture with his forearms that might have been polite or might have been dismissive. Your welcome is not necessary. We are not guests. We are here to deliver a message from the Council. The room became very quiet. Everyone could feel that whatever was about to happen would change everything. For 300 of your years, the Hegemony Council has brought peace and order to this section of the galaxy, Carix continued. 47 species have joined us willingly. They have accepted their place in the natural order of things. They have given up their violent ways and learned to live in harmony with their betters. President Vasquez felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. And what does this have to do with humanity? Everything, Carix said. We have been watching your species. We have seen your wars, your weapons, your endless need to fight and conquer. You are a plague species. You spread across your world like a disease, consuming everything in your path. You cannot be allowed to spread to the stars. The alien reached into his robes and pulled out a small device. He pressed something on it, and a hologram appeared in the air above them. It showed a planet, green and beautiful like Earth. Then it showed the same planet covered in fire and ash, dead and empty. This was the homeworld of the Krell, Carix said. They refused our offer of integration. They chose to fight rather than accept their proper place. This is what remains of their civilization. The hologram faded, and Carix put the device away. We do not wish this fate for humanity. You have potential. You are clever, if violent. You could serve the Council well. If you accept our terms, what terms? President Vasquez asked, though she was afraid she already knew. Simple ones, Carix replied. You will accept the authority of the Hegemony Council. You will limit your population to 5 billion individuals and maintain it at that level. You will abandon all deep space exploration beyond your home system. You will submit to our guidance in all matters of science and technology. You will cease all military research and surrender your weapons of mass destruction. In return, we will allow your species to continue existing. The silence in the room was complete. President Vasquez looked around at her advisors, at the representatives. From every nation on Earth, some looked terrified. Some looked angry. All of them looked to her. How long do we have to decide? She asked. 1 of your days? Carix said. When I return tomorrow, you will give me your answer. Choose wisely. The Council's patience is not unlimited. The aliens turned and walked out of the assembly hall. Their shuttle lifted off in silence and disappeared into the sky. President. Vasquez was left standing with the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. That night, emergency sessions continued around the world. Scientists worked frantically to understand the alien technology they had seen. Military leaders planned for battles they knew they could not win. Politicians argued about surrender and resistance and the survival of the human race. In the morning, Ambassador Carix returned to the United Nations building. The assembly hall was packed with representatives from every nation, every government, every group that claimed to speak for humanity. President Vasquez stood at the podium, and her face was calm. Ambassador Carix, she said when the alien entered the room. We have considered your offer, and, Carix asked. He seemed confident, relaxed. In his experience, this was always the easy part. President Vasquez looked directly into his large black eyes. We decline. The alien stared at her for a long moment. I do not think you understand. This was not a negotiation. This was a statement of terms. We understand perfectly, the president replied. And our answer is no. Carrick's felt something he had not experienced in a very long time. Surprise. You would choose extinction over survival? We choose freedom over slavery, President Vasquez sighed. We choose to remain human. The ambassador looked around the room at all the human faces staring back at him. There was fear in their eyes, yes, but there was something else. Something he had not seen in any of the other 47 species. There was defiance. Very well, Carrick said finally. The Council will be disappointed. We had hoped to add your unique skills to our civilization. Instead, we will simply add your world to our territory after we have removed the infestation. 6 months after humanity said no to the Hegemony Council, the alien fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. 200 ships of different shapes and sizes dropped out of faster than light. Travel near Pluto, some were long and thin like spears, others were round like balls covered in weapons. The biggest ones looked like flying cities made of metal and crystal. Admiral Chun Wei stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Defiance, watching the enemy fleet on his screens. Around him, his officers worked quietly at their stations. Everyone knew they were about to fight a battle they could not win. The alien fleet had 200 ships. Earth had 30. Sir, we're getting messages from the other ships in our fleet, reported Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. All captains are ready and waiting for orders. Admiral Chun nodded. He was 63 years old and had spent his whole life in the Navy. He had fought pirates in the asteroid belt and rebels on Mars, but he had never faced anything like this. Any word from Earth Command? He asked. Yes, sir. President Vasquez sends her regards and says to give them hell. The Admiral almost smiled. That's exactly what we plan to do. On the Hegemony flagship, Supreme War Leader Thaxus studied the human fleet through his ship's sensors. Thaxus was a Zephyrian, a species that looked like giant lizards covered in blue scales. His people had conquered 15 star systems before joining the Hegemony Council. He understood war. Only 30 ships? He asked his tactical officer, a spider-like creature with 8 arms. Our intelligence said the humans had more ships than this. Perhaps the rest are hiding, War Leader, the officer suggested. Some species try to keep reserve forces in case the first battle goes badly? Thaxus made a sound that was the Zephyrian version of laughter. It will not matter. Look at their ships. They are so small and primitive. Our smallest destroyer is bigger than their largest battleship. He was right. The human ships look like toys compared to the alien vessels. The biggest human ship was 800 meters long. The smallest alien ship was twice that size. The alien flagship was over 5 kilometers from nose to tail, but Admiral Chun had not brought his fleet here to win a fair fight. He had brought them here to teach the aliens something about human warfare. All ships, this is Admiral Chun, he said into his communications system. Execute Protocol 7. Let's show our guests what we learned from studying their technology. For the past 50 years, Earth had been collecting alien artifacts. Every crashed probe, every lost scout ship, every piece of strange metal that fell from the sky had been taken to secret laboratories and studied. Humanity had been learning. The human fleet began to move in a pattern that confused the alien sensors. Instead of forming a battle line like civilized species, the human ships scattered in all directions. Some headed toward Jupiter. Others dove toward the sun. A few seemed to be running away toward the outer planets. What are they doing? Thaxus demanded. This is not how space battles are fought. His tactical officer's 8 arms moved quickly over the control panels. War Leader, I cannot predict their movements. They are not following any known tactical doctrine. Of course they are not, Thaxus said with annoyance. They are primitives. They probably do not even know how to fight properly in space. Signal the fleet. We will destroy them quickly and move on to their planet. The Hegemony fleet began to advance toward the scattered human ships. Their formation was perfect, their movements coordinated, their weapons ready. They had done this many times before against many different species. It always ended the same way. Captain Maria Santos commanded the human destroyer Relentless. Her ship was running toward Jupiter with 3 alien cruisers chasing her. To the aliens, it looked like she was trying to escape. They were wrong. "Engineering, are the modifications ready?" she asked over the ship's internal communications. "Yes, Captain," came the reply from Chief Engineer Park. "The cargo bay has been converted just like you ordered. But I still think this is crazy." "Crazy is what we do best," Captain Santos replied. "Prepare to execute on my command." The Relentless flew into the asteroid field between Jupiter and Mars, weaving between the floating rocks. The alien ships followed, confident they could corner the human vessel and destroy it easily. What they did not know was that humans had been mining this asteroid field for 20 years. They knew every rock, every hiding place, every dangerous passage. More importantly, they had left surprises behind. Now, Captain Santos shouted. The Relentless suddenly stopped and spun around to face the pursuing alien ships. At the same moment, charges that had been placed on dozens of asteroids exploded. The rocks became weapons, flying toward the alien ships. At incredible speed, the first alien cruiser tried to dodge but was too big and too slow. A chunk of rock, the size of a building, smashed into its side, tearing through the hull like paper. Atmosphere and alien bodies spilled out into space. The second cruiser managed to avoid the largest pieces, but was hit by hundreds of smaller rocks. Its shields flickered and failed. Its weapons went offline. The third cruiser fired its energy weapons at the approaching rocks, destroying many of them. But there were too many. The ship was hammered by impacts until its armor cracked and its systems failed. Captain Santos watched 3 enemy ships, each one bigger and more advanced than hers, drift powerless in space. "Target their engines with conventional missiles," she ordered. "Make sure they cannot follow us." Similar scenes were happening throughout the solar system. Human ships used the asteroids, the planets, and the moons as weapons. They hid behind Saturn's rings and fired missiles that looked like space debris. They used Jupiter's gravity to slingshot rocks at enemy ships. They turned their own mining equipment into weapons of war. Commander James Foster led a squadron of 6 human fighters against a massive alien dreadnought near Venus. The alien ship was 3 kilometers long and covered with weapon systems. It should have been able to destroy Foster's small ships in seconds, but the human fighters did not attack the dreadnought directly. Instead, they flew to Venus and landed on the planet's surface. They had been there before, setting up mining stations to collect rare metals from the planet's crust. "Remember," Foster told his pilots as they prepared their surprise, "we only get one chance at this." The fighters launched from Venus carrying not missiles or energy weapons, but mining charges. Thousands of them, the kind used to crack open asteroids and extract metals. They had been modified with simple guidance systems. And packed together in clusters, the alien dreadnought's captain watched the small human ships approach and was amused. "They are going to ram us," he told his crew. "Brave but pointless. Their little ships will barely scratch our armor." He was wrong. The human fighters did not ram the alien ship. Instead, they flew alongside it and released their cargo. Thousands of mining charges stuck to the dreadnought's hull using magnetic clamps. Then the fighters flew away as fast as they could. "What are those devices?" the alien captain demanded. "Scan them immediately." Before his crew could answer, the charges exploded, not all at once, but in a carefully timed sequence. The explosions ran along the length of the ship like a zipper opening. The dreadnought's armor, designed to stop energy weapons and missiles, was torn apart by simple chemical explosives placed exactly where the ship was weakest. The massive vessel broke in half and began to fall toward Venus, its crew screaming in languages no human had ever heard before. Back on the Hegemony flagship, Supreme War Leader Thaxus watched his fleet being destroyed by an enemy that should not have been able to fight back. 12 ships were gone, 20 more were damaged, and the humans had lost only 3 vessels. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Their technology is primitive. Their ships are tiny. They should not be able to hurt us." His tactical officer worked frantically at the control panels, trying to understand what was happening. "War Leader, I think the humans have been studying our technology. Some of their weapons use principles similar to ours, but modified in ways I do not understand." Notified. How? Faxus asked. They seem to have taken our designs and made them simpler, cheaper, and easier to mass produce. Instead of one powerful weapon, they use hundreds of weak ones. Instead of strong shields, they use speed and unpredictability. Thaxus felt something cold in his stomach. Fear. Are you saying these primitives reverse-engineered our technology? I am saying they learned from it and made it better suited to their needs, the tactical officer replied. War leader, we are not fighting primitives. We are fighting a species that has been preparing for this war for decades. Admiral Chun watched the battle reports coming in from across the solar system. His small fleet was winning, but he knew it could not last. The aliens had more ships, more weapons, and once they figured out human tactics, they would adapt. Signal all ships, he ordered. Execute Phase 2. Time to show them what else we learned. The remaining human ships began to retreat toward Earth, but they were not running away. They were leading the alien fleet into the next trap. Between Mars and Earth, humanity had spent 20 years building something the aliens had never seen before, a minefield. Not made of simple explosive devices, but of modified alien technology. Each mine contained a small gravity generator reverse. 3 weeks after the first battle, the alien fleet regrouped near Saturn. Supreme War Leader Thaxus stood in his command center studying new intelligence reports about human capabilities. His blue scales had turned darker, a sign of stress. Among his people, around him, officers from 12 different species worked to understand an enemy that made no sense. Show me the recordings again, Thaxus ordered his intelligence officer, a pale creature with large ears and 6 fingers on each hand. The holographic display showed the recent battle. Human ships moved like insects, darting between asteroids and planets. They used everything as a weapon. Mining charges became bombs. Civilian cargo containers became missiles. Even space junk became deadly when launched at the right speed and angle. War leader, we have analyzed their tactics extensively, the intelligence officer reported. The humans do not fight like any known species. They ignore all established rules of warfare. What rules do they ignore? Thaxus asked, though he was beginning to understand the answer. All of them, sir. They target supply ships, not just military. Vessels. They use false surrender signals to draw our ships into traps. They broadcast recordings of our soldiers dying to demoralize other crews. They turn civilian equipment into weapons. They even use their own destroyed ships as projectiles. Thaxus felt his stomach turn cold. In 300 years of hegemony expansion, no species had ever fought this way. War was supposed to be civilized. There were rules, honor codes, agreements about what weapons could be used and how battles should be conducted. Have they responded to our communications about proper warfare protocols? He asked. Yes, war leader. The human Admiral Chun sent a message. He said, and I quote, "We did not agree to your rules. We make our own, on Earth." Admiral Chen was meeting with his senior commanders in a bunker beneath the Pacific Ocean. The room was filled with holographic displays showing the positions of both fleets. The alien ships outnumbered the humans 3-1, but Ching was not worried about numbers anymore. Status report, he said to Colonel Martinez, who commanded the Special Operations Forces. Phase 3 preparations are complete, Admiral, she replied. Our infiltration teams are ready? The aliens still do not know we captured some of their crew members during the first battle. Admiral Chun nodded. The humans had rescued alien survivors from destroyed ships, but they had not returned them as prisoners of war. Instead, they had learned the alien languages, studied their technology, and discovered something very important. The aliens had never fought an enemy that took prisoners. For intelligence purposes. What about the Psychological Warfare Division? Chun asked. Captain Wilson, a thin man with cold eyes, smiled. We have been broadcasting intercepted alien communications on all frequencies. Their crews are hearing the last words of their dead comrades. Some alien ships have already requested transfers away from human space. Good, Chun said. The aliens fight with their minds as much as their weapons. If we can break their will to fight, we win without destroying their entire fleet. Dr. Sarah Chun, the physicist who had been studying alien technology, raised her hand. Admiral, we have completed our analysis of the captured alien weapons. We can now produce modified versions that are more effective against their own ships than their original designs? How is that possible? The Admiral asked. Because we think differently, Dr. Chun explained. The aliens build weapons to last for centuries and follow strict safety protocols. We build weapons to work once and cause maximum damage. Their energy weapons are designed to be precise and efficient. Ours are designed to overload and explode. Meanwhile, on the alien flagship, Ambassador Carrix had arrived to observe the war effort. He stood beside war leader Thaxis, watching the tactical displays with growing concern. This is not how primitive species behave, Carrix said. The 47 other worlds we integrated all fought the same way. They formed battle lines, used conventional tactics, and surrendered when they realized they could not win. The humans are different, Thaxis replied. They do not seem to understand that they cannot win. Or perhaps they do not care, Carrix suggested. I have been studying their historical records. These creatures have been fighting each other for their entire existence. They have perfected the art of killing with limited resources. As if to prove his point, the human fleet suddenly appeared on their sensors, but something was wrong. The humans had 30 ships in the first battle. Now, they had 60. The ships were smaller and looked different, but they were definitely human. How do they have more ships? Thaxis demanded. Our intelligence said we destroyed most of their fleet construction facilities. His tactical officer worked quickly at the control panels. War leader, these appear to be civilian vessels that have been converted to military use. Cargo ships, mining vessels, even passenger transports. They have all been fitted with weapons. Civilian ships? Thaxis could not believe what he was hearing. They are using non-combatant vessels in warfare? That violates every civilized law of war. I do not think the humans recognize civilized laws of war, Carrix said quietly. The human fleet approached the alien position, but again they did not form proper battle lines. Instead, they spread out in a chaotic pattern that made it impossible to predict where they would attack. Commander Sarah Martinez led the first wave of human ships. Her vessel, the converted cargo hauler Fighting Spirit, looked nothing like a warship. It had been a peaceful merchant vessel just 4 weeks ago. Now it bristled with weapons and armor plating welded onto its hull. All ships, remember the plan, she broadcast to her fleet. We are not here to win a fair fight. We are here to teach these aliens what happens when they threaten Earth. The human ships attacked from 12 different directions at once. Some fired conventional missiles. Others launched modified mining drones that attached to alien hulls and exploded. A few ships flew directly at the enemy, planning to ram them at the last second, but the most disturbing tactic was what the humans called ghost ships. These were vessels that appeared to be badly damaged and drifting helplessly. When alien ships approached to finish them off or capture them, the damaged human ships would suddenly come to life and attack at point-blank range. Captain Vex of the alien destroyer Sharp Talon fell for this trick. He saw a human cruiser floating, dead in space, its engines dark and its hull scarred by weapons fire. Following proper military protocol, he moved his ship closer to capture any survivors and salvage useful technology. Scan the human vessel for life signs, he ordered his crew. I detect 43 life forms aboard the enemy ship, his science officer reported. They appear to be unconscious or wounded. Captain Vex felt satisfied. This was how civilized warfare was supposed to work. You defeated your enemy, then you showed mercy to the survivors. Prepare a boarding party. We will take the humans prisoner and treat their wounded. The Sharp Talon moved within 50 meters of the drifting human ship. Alien soldiers prepared to board and secure the vessel. They expected to find defeated enemies grateful for rescue. Instead, the human ship exploded. Not the whole ship, but carefully placed charges that turned the vessel into a massive shotgun blast of metal fragments. The explosion was designed to cause maximum damage to any ship that came too close. The sharp talon was torn apart by thousands of pieces of flying metal dot as Captain Vex died. His last thought was confusion. Why would the humans destroy their own ship just to kill his crew? It made no military sense, but it made perfect human sense. War leader Thaxus watched his ships being destroyed by enemies who seemed to have no regard for their own survival. The humans were using tactics that no civilized species would consider. They sacrificed their own vessels to destroy larger enemy ships. They ignored all attempts at honorable combat. They treated war not as a contest between civilizations, but as a fight for survival. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet," his communications officer reported. "Put it on screen," Thaxus ordered. Admiral Chun appeared on the display. Behind him stood representatives from every nation on Earth, soldiers, scientists, workers, children, all of them staring directly at the alien fleet with expressions of absolute determination. "I am Admiral Chun of the Earth Defense Force," the human said. "You came to our system expecting us to surrender. You thought we would be afraid of your superior technology and larger fleet. You were wrong." Thaxus leaned forward. "Human, you cannot win this war. We have 100 ships for every one of yours. We have technology you cannot understand. We have the backing of 12 civilized species. Surrender now, and some of your people may be allowed to live." Admiral Chun smiled, but there was no humor in his expression. "War leader Thaxus, you still do not understand. We are not trying to win your kind of war. We are fighting our kind of war. And in our kind of war, the only rule is that there are no rules." The transmission ended, and immediately the human fleet began its next attack. But this time, something was different. The aliens detected massive energy signatures coming from the direction of Earth. "What is that?" Thaxus demanded. "His science." Officer looked terrified. "War leader, the humans appear to have weaponized their planet's magnetic field. They are launching some kind of electromagnetic pulse that will disable every electronic system in our fleet." "That is impossible." 2 months after the electromagnetic pulse attack, the largest fleet in galactic history arrived at the edge of the solar system. 800 ships from all 12 species of the Hegemony Council dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. The fleet stretched across space like a metal constellation, each ship bristling with weapons designed to destroy entire planets. HFY War. Commander Zelthik stood on the bridge of the massive command ship Eternal Victory. He was a Corthane, a species that looked like walking mountains made of living rock. His people had conquered more worlds than any other race in the hegemony. When civilizations refused to surrender, they called Zelthik. "Show me the human fleet," he ordered in a voice like grinding stone. The tactical display revealed 37 human ships scattered throughout the solar system. They looked even smaller and more primitive compared to the massive alien armada. Some were hiding behind moons. Others drifted near asteroid fields. A few seemed to be running toward the outer planets. "That is all?" Zelthik asked his intelligence officer, a floating creature made of gas and energy. "Fewer than 40 ships against our 800? "Yes, High Commander. Our sensors detect no other human vessels. Their main fleet appears to have been destroyed or hidden." Zelthik made a sound like rocks falling. It was laughter. "The humans have realized they cannot win. They are preparing to run or surrender. This will be finished quickly." But on Earth, President Elena Vasquez was meeting with her War Council in a bunker 3 kilometers underground. The room was filled with screens showing the massive alien fleet. Every person in the room knew they were looking at enough firepower to turn every planet in the solar system into dust. "Are we ready?" President Vasquez asked Admiral Chun. "As ready as we can be, Madam President," Chung replied. "Operation Endgame is prepared to launch. All teams are in position." "Casualties?" she asked, though she dreaded the answer. "Heavy," Admiral Chun said honestly. "We will lose most of our fleet, maybe all of it. But if the plan works, we will win the war." President Vasquez looked around the room at her advisors, her generals, her scientists. These people had spent months preparing for this moment. They all knew what it would cost. Do it, she ordered, light years away from Earth. On the Hegemony Council homeworld, the 12 species leaders watched the battle through quantum communication links. They sat in a great chamber carved from a single massive crystal, each species in their own environmental section. Finally, said Council Leader Myrix, a creature that looked like a tree made of silver metal, Zelthic will end this embarrassment. The humans will learn why 47 other species chose to surrender rather than fight. The humans have been more troublesome than expected, admitted Counselor Vesh, whose people resembled giant spiders made of crystal. But 800 ships should be more than adequate to handle 37 primitive vessels. It is not their ships that concern me, said Counselor Zeph. The only council member who resembled humans, though his skin was blue and he had 4 arms. It is their tactics. They fight like no species we have ever encountered. Tactics mean nothing against overwhelming force, Myrix replied. Watch, this will be over within the hour. In the solar system, High War Commander Zelthic began his attack. He divided his massive fleet into 8 groups, each one larger than the entire human force. They would surround the human ships and destroy them systematically. It was a classic hegemony strategy that had worked against hundreds of worlds. All battle groups begin your advance, Zelthic ordered. Target every human vessel. Leave nothing intact. The alien fleet moved forward like a slow avalanche of metal and energy. Their formation was perfect, their coordination flawless. Each ship knew exactly where to go and what to do. It was the kind of military precision that had conquered half the galaxy, but as the alien ships spread throughout the solar system, they began to discover that the humans had been busy during the 2 months since the last battle. Group 3, advancing toward Mars, suddenly found themselves flying through what appeared to be empty space. Their sensors detected no threats, no hidden ships, no weapons. Then their lead destroyer simply vanished. What happened to the crushing fist? Demanded Group Commander Vorthak. Unknown, sir, replied his sensor officer. The ship just disappeared, no explosion, no debris, nothing. Then a second ship vanished, then a third. Emergency stop, Vorthak ordered. All ships halt immediately. Too late. A 4th ship disappeared, then a 5th. The remaining vessels found themselves trapped in a field of invisible mines, each one containing a miniature black hole generator. The humans had spent 2 months placing thousands of these devices throughout the solar system, creating killing fields that no sensor could detect. Battle Group 5, approaching Jupiter, encountered a different surprise. As they flew past the giant planet's largest moon, they discovered it was not a moon at all. It was a massive human weapons platform disguised to look like a natural satellite. The fake moon opened like a flower, revealing dozens of launch tubes. Thousands of missiles poured out, each one guided by artificial intelligence that had learned from captured alien technology. The missiles were not designed to penetrate alien shields or armor. Instead, they were designed to attach to enemy ships and broadcast a signal. What are these devices? Asked Group Commander Hextall as hundreds of small missiles stuck to his ships like metal insects, before anyone could answer. Every human ship in the solar system fired at once. But they were not firing at the alien vessels. They were firing at the missiles that had attached themselves to the alien ships. Each missile acted as a targeting beacon, allowing human weapons to strike with perfect accuracy across impossible distances. Hextall watched in horror as precise energy beams from human ships millions of kilometers away struck his fleet with devastating effect. The humans had turned his own ships into target markers for their weapons. Battle Group 7, advancing on the asteroid belt, found themselves under attack by the asteroids themselves. The humans had attached engines and guidance systems to hundreds of space rocks, turning them into kinetic weapons that struck with the force of nuclear bombs. The aliens' energy shields were useless against simple mass moving at high speed, but the worst surprise was waiting for High War Commander Zelthic himself. As his command group approached Earth, they detected a single human ship moving to intercept them. It was Admiral Chun's flagship, the Defiance, apparently making a suicidal charge against impossible odds. One ship? Zelphic rumbled. They send one ship against my entire command group? Are they mocking us? Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human vessel, reported his communications officer. Put it through, Zelphic ordered. He wanted to hear the human admiral surrender before he destroyed the primitive ship. Admiral Chun appeared on the screen. He looked tired but determined. High War Commander Zelphic, I am Admiral Chun of the Earth Defense Force. I have a message for you and your council. Surrender, human, Zelphic replied. Your fleet is being destroyed. Your planet is defenseless. Submit now, and I will make your death quick, Admiral Chun smiled. I did not call to surrender. I called to explain what is about to happen to you. You cannot threaten me, Zelphic said. You have one primitive ship against my 200 vessels. I do not need to threaten you, Chun replied. I just need to distract you long enough for Captain Foster to complete his mission. What mission? Zelphic demanded. Instead of answering, Admiral Chun cut the transmission. At the same moment, alarms began sounding throughout the alien command ship. Sir, we have intruders aboard the ship, shouted the security officer. Multiple breaches on decks 7 through 15. Impossible, Zelphic said. Our shields are active. Nothing can penetrate them, but something had. While the alien fleet was focused on the approaching human ships, a team of human soldiers had been waiting in the empty space between stars. They wore specially designed stealth suits that made them invisible to alien sensors. They had been drifting in the cold vacuum for 3 days, waiting for the enemy fleet to arrive. Captain James Foster led the infiltration team through the alien command ship's corridors. His soldiers moved quickly and silently, using their knowledge of alien ship designs gained from captured vessels. They knew exactly where to go and what to destroy. Team 1, target the shield generators, Foster whispered into his communicator. Team 2, take out the weapon systems. Team 3, you are with me. We are going for the command center. The alien crew tried to resist, but they had never faced human soldiers in close combat. The humans fought with a savagery that shocked the aliens. They used knives when their guns ran out of ammunition. They used their bare hands when their knives broke. They fought like creatures who knew they were going to die and wanted to take as many enemies with them as possible within 20 minutes. Captain Foster's team had taken control of the alien command ship. They held High War Commander Zelphic and his entire staff as prisoners. All human ships, this is Captain Foster, he broadcast on all frequencies. The enemy command ship is secure. Begin Phase 2. Throughout the solar system, the scattered human ships revealed what they had really been doing. They had not been hiding or running. They had been placing themselves in position to control every alien ship. 47 hours after humanity captured the hegemony fleet, Ambassador Carrick sat in a small room aboard the human ship Defiance. His 4 arms were bound with simple metal chains, and his large black eyes stared at the human woman sitting across. From him, President Elena Vasquez looked calm, as if she held the fate of 12 alien civilizations in her hands every day. You wish to speak with me? Carrick said. His voice was quieter than before, lacking the confidence he had shown when he first came to Earth. I wanted to understand, President Vasquez replied. When you came to our world 6 months ago, you seemed so certain we would surrender. You had done this 47 times before. What made you think we would be different? Carrick was quiet for a long moment. We studied your species for decades. We saw your wars, your violence, your endless conflicts. We thought this made you weak, divided. We believed you would fight each other instead of uniting against us. You were wrong, the president said. Yes, Carrick admitted. We did not understand that your conflicts made you stronger, not weaker. Every war taught you new ways to fight. Every enemy showed you new weaknesses to exploit. We thought we were facing a primitive species. Instead, we were facing a civilization that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare. President Vasquez leaned forward. And now? Now I sit in chains aboard a human ship, while 800 of our most advanced vessels are controlled by your people. Now the Hegemony Council is preparing to surrender to a species they plan to erase from existence." Carrick's made a sound that might have been bitter laughter. "Your Admiral Chung was right. You were not fighting our kind of war. You were fighting your kind of war." In the council chamber on the Hegemony homeworld, the 12 species leaders sat in emergency session. For 3 days they had argued about what to do. Some wanted to gather more fleets and continue the war. Others suggested negotiating for better terms. A few had proposed abandoning the captured ships and fleeing to the far edges of the galaxy. "We cannot surrender to primitives," declared Council Leader Myrix, his silver metal body gleaming with agitation. "The other species in the galaxy will see this as weakness. Our entire empire will collapse." "Our empire has already collapsed," replied Councilor Zeph. "The humans control our most powerful fleet. They have our most advanced technology. They hold thousands of our soldiers as prisoners. What empire do we have left?" "We still have our homeworlds," said Councilor Vesh, her crystal body sparkling with defiance. "We still have our planetary defense systems. The humans cannot conquer all 12 of our worlds, can they not?" asked Councilor Drex, whose species resembled floating jellyfish made of living light. "They turned our own fleet against us. They captured 800 ships without destroying a single one. What makes you think they cannot do the same to our planetary defenses?" The argument continued for hours, but everyone knew the truth. The humans had not just won a battle. They had demonstrated a completely different way of thinking about warfare. They had shown that superior technology and greater numbers meant nothing against an enemy that refused to follow the rules on Earth. Admiral Chen stood in the command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching status reports from across the solar system. Every captured alien ship was being studied by human scientists and engineers. Every piece of alien technology was being reverse engineered and improved. In just 3 days, humanity had learned more about advanced galactic civilization than they had in the previous century. "Report from the science teams," said Dr. Sarah Chun, looking up from her datapad. "We have successfully analyzed the alien faster-than-light drives. We can now travel to any star system in the galaxy." "What about their weapons technology?" Admiral Chun asked. "Even better than we hoped," Dr. Chun replied. "Their energy weapons are powerful but inefficient. We can build versions that are smaller, cheaper, and more effective. Their shield generators follow the same pattern. We can improve on everything they have." "How long before we can begin production?" "Our first human-built starships with alien technology will be ready in 6 months," Dr. Chun said. "Within 2 years, we will have a fleet that is larger and more advanced than anything the Hegemony has ever built." Admiral Chun nodded. "And the prisoner interrogations?" Colonel Martinez stepped forward. "The alien soldiers are very cooperative. Once they understand that we treat prisoners well, they have provided detailed information about all 12 Hegemony worlds, including defense systems, military bases, and population centers." "Good," Admiral Chun said. "Make sure they understand that their cooperation will be remembered when we decide their fate." On the Hegemony homeworld, the council session was interrupted by an urgent message from the human fleet. President Vasquez appeared on the main screen, flanked by Admiral Chun and representatives from every Earth nation. "Leaders of the Hegemony Council," she began, "your 48 hours have expired. It is time to discuss terms." Council Leader Myrix stood up, his metal body creaking with the movement. "We will not surrender unconditionally to a primitive species. We demand honorable terms befitting civilized nations." President Vasquez smiled, but there was no warmth in her expression. "You are in no position to demand anything. However, we are prepared to offer terms that will allow your civilizations to continue existing." "What terms?" asked Councilor Zeph. "Simple ones," President Vasquez replied. "First, the Hegemony Council will be dissolved immediately. The alliance between your 12 species is over. Second, each of your worlds will accept human observers who will monitor your governments and ensure compliance with our agreements. Third, you will provide complete databases of all your scientific and technological knowledge. Fourth, you will pay reparations for the cost of this war by providing raw materials and manufactured goods to Earth for the next 50 years. The council chamber erupted in angry voices as the alien leaders protested the harsh terms. Council. Leader Myrick spoke over the chaos. These terms are completely unacceptable. You are asking us to become your slaves. No, President Vasquez corrected. We are offering to let you remain independent under human supervision. The alternative is much worse. What alternative? Myrick's demanded. Admiral Chun stepped forward. Total occupation. We divide your 12 worlds among Earth's nations and govern them directly. Your species become citizens of human colonies, subject to human law and human authority. You would not dare, Counselor Vesh hissed. We have your entire fleet, Admiral. Chun reminded her. We have detailed maps of all your worlds. We have the technology to travel faster than light. What exactly do you think would stop us? The council chamber fell silent. For the first time in 300 years, the leaders of the hegemony were faced with a choice between surrender and extinction. Counselor Zeph, who had been quiet during most of the argument, finally spoke. How do we know you will honor these terms? How do we know you will not simply conquer us anyway once we surrender? President Vasquez considered the question carefully. Because we are not you. We do not seek to rule other species. We want to be left alone to explore the galaxy and build our own civilization. As long as you do not threaten us or our interests, we have no desire to control your daily lives. And if we refuse these terms, asked Council Leader Myrick, then we will demonstrate what total human warfare looks like, Admiral Chun said. So far you have only seen us defending our home. You have not seen what happens when we go on the attack. The threat hung in the air like a poisonous cloud. Every alien leader understood what the humans were saying. They had captured the hegemony fleet without firing a shot. What could they do to entire planets if they chose to be destructive instead of merciful? After hours of private consultation, the council reconvened. Council Leader Myrick looked older and more tired than before. We accept your terms, he said quietly. All of them? President Vasquez asked. All of them, Myrick confirmed. The Hegemony Council surrenders unconditionally to the Earth government. President. Vasquez nodded. Very well, the war is over. 6 months later, Ambassador Carrick stood on the observation deck of a human starship as it approached his homeworld. He was no longer a prisoner but a diplomatic liaison, helping to coordinate the transition to the new galactic order. Below them, the planet Vorthak turned slowly in space, its cities gleaming in the light of its star. It is strange, he said to Captain Foster, who stood beside him. 6 months ago, I came to your world expecting to deliver terms of surrender. Now I return to mine to oversee our compliance with your terms. Do you regret it? Captain Foster asked. Kerr IX thought about the question. I regret that we underestimated your species. I regret the soldiers who died in a war that should never have been fought. But I do not regret the outcome. Why not? Because in 300 years of hegemony rule, we brought peace through fear, Carrick explained. We conquered species and forced them to submit. But you showed us something different. You showed us that it is possible to win a war and still offer your enemies a chance to remain free. Captain Foster nodded. That is what humans call mercy. We fight hard, but we do not fight forever. Perhaps, Carrick said. Or perhaps you simply understand that ruling through fear eventually leads to rebellion. Better to rule through respect.